Hi.
Are we recording?
Hey guys, this is Miss Allen.
This is Miss Strain and Mrs. Rodriguez.
We were just coming to say hi. Things are going to be a little different for the rest of this year. We're going to be doing our lessons via video, just like this. We're all going to teach a different part of the lesson, so you'll get to see all the teachers. And we just wanted y'all to know that this is kind of how you're going to be learning. So the first thing today, we're going to talk about fossils. And Miss Rodriguez is going to go over the vocab for us. And then Miss Strain's going to do notes. And then I'm going to show you a diagram and an example. Okay?
Here we go. Alright guys, we're going to start with fossils. I'm going to go over the vocab with you. If you will remember, we went over weathering, erosion, deposition, that kind of all goes with this. We remember how sedimentary rock is formed by compression and compaction, okay? All the different rocks and stuff, they get pressed down, and that's what kind of develops. Well, within these sedimentary rocks is fossils, okay? Won't go too much into that, so Miss Strain and Miss Allen can kind of teach you that, but we're going to go over our vocab for the week like we usually do in class, but just a little bit different. Our first word is going to be fossil, which is preserved parts or traces of animals and plants that lived in the past. Okay? So, as you get further into the lesson, you'll learn more about what fossils are. Okay? Sediments are small pieces of rock. You guys should already know this by now. Okay? Sedimentary rock is rock made of layers of compressed organic and inorganic sediments. Okay? To decay is to rot and break down into small parts. Okay? Imprint is a mark or depression made by pressure. And of course, weathering is the breakdown of rock into smaller particles from the effects of wind, water, and ice. So as you go through your lesson, guys, make sure you're remembering your vocab. And Miss Strain is going to go over notes with you.
Okay guys, we know it's kind of hard to see the vocabulary, so that will be posted online also, okay? So if there's anything you can't see that we're writing, we will also post it where you can see it easier, okay? So here's some of the notes that we were going to do. We're still on fossils, okay? So for an organism to become a fossil, the conditions, let's see, I'm going to have to... Sorry about my handwriting, guys. It's kind of facing away from me. The conditions have to be just right. When most animals or plants die, they will decay or they're going to be eaten by another animal. All right? Sometimes an organism will die and then it's going to be quickly covered by sediment. On land or underwater. So guys, remember, sediment are those tiny pieces of rock that go and they're going on top of each other, okay? So that's what's happening there. Over time, many layers of the sediment pack on top of each other. And on top of the organism. The packed sediment turns into stone, so that is a type of rock, okay? And the organism decays, leaving a mold of its shape in the stone or in the rock. Eventually, the fossil is exposed to the Earth's surface. So it's exposed to the top where we walk on through weathering. Remember, that is the breaking down of rock. or excavation. And this is where scientists will go in and dig into the earth to find the fossils, okay, and they discover it. And by studying fossils, scientists can determine how and where they lived, what they ate, and the Earth's environment during that time. So, for example of this, if a scientist found a shell fossil, it means that that was in the ocean, because shells live in the oceans. Okay? Let's say they found a type of fern leaf. Okay, you're going to see these in a forest, so they'll know that a forest used to be there. What happens if they found a dinosaur bone? Okay. And they found a lot of these in like the Hill Country in Texas. Okay. And if they find wolf teeth, wolves usually live in the mountains, so they know that that used to be a mountainous area. Things they're going to want to remember again are fossils are the remains or traces of animals and plants. So we're looking at organisms there, plants and animals, which live thousands or even millions years ago, guys. And that's about it with the fossils. And for the notes, Miss Allen will be coming up next for your diagram.
So as Miss Rodriguez and Miss Strain were explaining to you guys, fossils are the leftover remains of dead organisms. Now when we say organisms, this can be both plants and animals, okay? So whenever people are looking and finding fossils, they're going to be looking in sedimentary rock. And like we've talked about, you can recognize sedimentary rock by its layers. Okay, so see, all of this sediment has squished together to form all these layers of rock. Okay, and this is called sedimentary rock. It's the perfect recipe for fossils. As things die and the rock stacks on top of each other, it just kind of buries these fossils with it. Okay, so we're going to learn how to tell what type of ecosystem was present and about how old these things were just by their position in the ground. So, for instance, if I drew a maple leaf right here, okay, and then I had a rabbit, and then a cactus, a fish, and a starfish. Okay, so all of these are just buried underneath the ground. And here's some things that we're able to tell with these fossils. First of all, there's different types of ecosystems that existed here. So throughout time, guys, this represents thousands of years. Let's say this is about 10,000 years. Okay, so about 10,000 years ago, guys, I'm going to look at the bottom for the oldest. These are going to be the oldest fossils. Everything at the bottom. Everything at the top is going to be my youngest fossils. Okay, so when I'm looking at these examples, I have a fish and a starfish. So if I were to guess what type of ecosystem used to be here about 10,000 years ago, I would say that this was an ocean ecosystem. And I can tell that because I know that a starfish and a fish have to live in water. Starfish are saltwater fish. So it was more than likely an ocean ecosystem. Okay, as I'm moving up, maybe about 5 to 2,000 years later, I have a cactus. Now, do cactus live in the ocean? Absolutely not. We know that. So I know that my ecosystem has changed. Things have shifted on Earth. This water has turned now into a desert. Maybe it dried up from a drought. Okay, maybe we had a climate change and it caused more of a desert ecosystem to come about. Okay, so I have ocean. A little bit later, a few thousand years later, I have a desert. Then I'm starting to see rabbits, which could also live in the desert, but could also live in the forest. And then I'm seeing maple leaves even closer to the top. So we're seeing, guys, that this ocean to a desert kind of goes into a forest type ecosystem. Okay, so you can tell all of these things by the fossils. You can tell what type of ecosystem was there. Okay, was it a ocean? Was it a forest? Desert? Was it tundra? Okay, some types of tundra trees that we may see are, instead of maple leaves, pine needles. Pine needles represent the tundra. Anything that's cold or frostbitten. Maple leaves do not live in a cold forest. They live in what's called a deciduous forest. So through my fossils, I can tell that this has transitioned from an ocean to a desert into a deciduous forest type ecosystem. So I'm going from the oldest down here to the youngest up here. And what we just want you to understand is how to use fossils to tell those two things. What types of organisms are the fossils? That's going to tell you the ecosystem. Where they are at in the layers, that's going to tell you how old they are. The oldest is at the bottom, and again, the youngest is at the top. If you have any questions, guys, we will be online to help you communicate with you. This is a learning process for all of us. And we will have your assignments posted with directions and all that good stuff soon. Thank you.